Okay, lovely. So I'm also going to start sharing screen. So I'll hopefully everyone will be able to see this shortly. And do let me know if you can't. But is everyone okay? Hopefully you can see all of that. So morning, everybody, to Seminar 1, an overview of our services for the Share Foundation. So Anthony Walker sends his apologies, but he's unable, due to other meetings, unable to attend today, so it is just me. So I just wanted to quickly, before I go through the topics, just cover the sort of housekeeping, if you like. So obviously, if you do remain on mute just while I'm presenting, just to avoid any background noise. The video, obviously, if you want to be seen, you can start your video, or obviously if you don't, then I fully understand, and that's okay. Just with regard to questions, I'm happy for questions to be asked as we go along. We'll also have a question and answer session anyway at the end. If I don't see you, forgive me, because now I'm sharing screen, I'm only limited with the amount of people I can see on my screen. So you could either pop something in the chat or just raise your hand using the hand ability, sorry, on the within the Zoom. So there is a excuse me, an area where you can actually raise your hand, and that you should then jump to the front of the queue, and I should be able to see you easily then. But otherwise, just shout out at me if I keep going and ignoring you. It's not because I want to, it's because I just can't see you on the screen. So the topics to be covered today are: who are the Share Foundation, the types of savings accounts available, the similarities and differences between the accounts, the work of the Share Foundation and our scope, and any questions which we'll raise towards the end. So the Share Foundation, we're a registered charity and we've been operating since 2005. At that time, we were raising money for child trust funds within the local area. So we were then awarded the government contract in 2012 to set up and administer the junior ISAs for looked after children. And this contract widened in 2017 to also cover the child trust funds where there's no one with in a position of parental responsibility. So I think prior to that, then the local authorities were reporting to the official solicitor or accountant of court in Scotland. But now, obviously, with regard to us looking after both the child trust funds and junior ISAs, the reporting is to us only. Good news is that contract has been renewed for the next 4 years from April 2023. So the Share Foundation will remain working with yourselves and doing the work we do for the looked after children. And all our costs are covered by the government or a philanthropist. So any money that is given to us for donations for young people, etc., or there's no charges to local authorities or health trusts. We are covered through the contract with the government and by our philanthropist. So the junior ISAs and child trust funds, so both are long-term savings accounts set up by the government and were or are available to all children under 18 in the UK. So the Child Trust Fund scheme closed for new accounts on the 2nd of January 2011, and that's when the Junior ISA scheme took over. So just to make that a little bit clearer, if a young person was born in the UK on or after the 1st of September 2002 and up to and including the 2nd of January 2011, they are likely to have a child trust fund. And this was where this was all done through the child benefit scheme. So where someone was claiming child benefit for a young person, a voucher would have been sent to them when they were born for the person with parental responsibility at that time to open up a child trust fund. And if that wasn't actioned within the first year, then the HMRC would set up the Child Trust Fund account. And obviously for looked after children at that time, probably the official solicitor, so that they would have known that the young person, you know, would have been eligible, even though they had no one with parental responsibility. Then with regard to the Junior ISA scheme, the first or earliest date of birth is the 3rd of January 1994. So someone born 3rd of January 1994 is the earliest date where the Junior ISA scheme would be effective for a young person who has been in care for at least 12 months without any breaks, but I'll talk about the eligibility later on. Anyone can contribute to a child trust fund or a Junior ISA account. The Share Foundation can only manage child trust fund accounts where the local authority or health trust confirms that there is no one or no one suitable in a position of parental responsibility. So when we receive the regular data from a local authority or health trust, we will identify the young person, their date of birth, and if they were born in the child trust fund years, we will go back to the local authority and ask if there is anyone in a position of parental responsibility. If there is, then we ask, is that person deemed suitable to be managing the account effectively? And if they are, then we do absolutely no more. We can't go and find the account. We don't need to, because you've told us that you know, there is someone with parental responsibility who is managing that account effectively. However, if the answer is no, there isn't one or they're not, then we, as the Share Foundation, we will go to HMRC, find out where that account had been opened, and then we will contact the account provider directly to actually take control of the account and become the registered contact until any circumstances change. So Junior ISAs and child trust funds and the similarities. So account is opened and held in the name of the child. So the accounts are in the name of the child and no one else. Under the responsibility of the Share Foundation, the account information and reporting does not change if a placement changes. So if a young person does move on, then obviously we will remain the registered contact if they're still in care, obviously. And then, you know, the account remains for that young person, so that does not change. They're both tax efficient. At the age of 16, the child may take responsibility for the account. Only the child can access the funds, and only when they are 18 years old. And the maximum donations to an account currently is £9,000 per year. So the main differences, the Junior ISAs, available to all children in the UK, but the Looked After Children scheme, they received £200 contribution, that's obviously from the Department for Education, providing they meet the 4 criteria. They have to be under 18 at that time. They do not have a child trust fund, so they cannot have, legally, a young person cannot have a Junior ISA and a child trust fund. They will have one or the other. They're a UK resident, so physically living in the UK, and they're been in care for a continuous period of at least 1 year. The contribution year of that maximum of £9,000, so the contribution year is the tax year, so 6th of April to the 5th of April is how that would run. So the child trust funds, the account is opened for every child born in the UK between the 1st of September 2002 and the 2nd of January 2011. So that means that it's open to all young people born in the UK, and it's not just for young people in care like the Looked After Children scheme. It's for all nationwide, all young people been born between those times where someone was claiming child benefit. Generally, there was a 250 contributed by the government. It did differ for low-income families, and towards the end of the scheme, it got very well reduced. It was probably like £50 approximately. So yeah, as the the scheme came to its end, then the latter young people would not have received as much money as the early days, really. The contribution year is 12 months from the birthday, so it's the birthday to birthday period for contribution, not the tax year. Junior ISA is opened by the Share Foundation for all qualifying young people and for those moving to the UK, so unaccompanied asylum seekers as an example, who were born in the Child Trust Fund era who meet the remaining criteria. A junior ISA cannot be converted to a Child Trust Fund. With regard to the Child Trust Fund, accounts are already opened because they were opened around the time the young person was born. Administration is dealt with by the Share Foundation for accounts where the young person has no one in a position of parental responsibility. And a Child Trust Fund can be converted to a junior ISA if this is best advice. The Share Foundation have been undertaking this, so over the last few months, upon the advice of a third-party investment organisation that we use, we have converted many of the Child Trust Funds to junior ISAs because it was the best advice for when they looked at the investments of the Child Trust Funds. And we did that for mainly young people that were under 16, because obviously once they're 16, they've only got a couple of years, it was thought that actually it's probably best to keep the accounts where they were. So how does it all work? So the details of a qualifying young people are provided by the local authority or health trust to the Share Foundation on a regular basis through their sort of data submission. And upon that data, JISA account is opened if that's what's required, or obviously if it's a Child Trust Fund, the account is located if appropriate. The Share Foundation then administers the accounts until a young person leaves care, turns 18, is adopted, returned to parents, etc. And our work includes administration of additional donations. So we have received a big increase in the amount of donations that are coming through now. That's from foster carers, that's from local authorities, that's from fostering agencies. Many of the local authorities have chosen to do multiple donations, to take the savings at source and actually make the multiple donations themselves on a regular basis, usually monthly. And so we've seen a big increase in that as well. So it's great news that these young people's accounts are actually being added to. So what else do the Share Foundation do? And this really is a very brief understanding of some of the seminars that you may or may not have attended, or that you can still register for. So Seminar 2 is all about handling the data submissions from the local authorities and health trusts. So as mentioned before, the submission of the data is on a regular basis, so we can really make sure we open the junior ISA or locate a Child Trust Fund. And that's in the best interests of the young people, that data is submitted regularly so that we can continue to do that. Otherwise, if it's delayed for any reason, then there are accounts that are either not being opened or not being found, donations can't be put into them, etc. So everything we do starts with the submission of the data. However, how often the data is submitted is actually agreed with the local authorities and health trusts, usually maybe monthly, perhaps quarterly if it's a smaller local authority or trust. So that's obviously agreed, and those submissions are then hopefully done on that basis. I'd like to emphasise the use of the legal name on submissions, as this is the name we will use to open an account. The reason why we mention this, and it's very important, and it will be obviously mentioned in the seminar, is that we find that when young people go to actually take control of their account and they've called themselves another name, they might be a name they like to be called, But if it's not their legal name, then it comes to actually their ID, everything else, then that can cause them problems. So legal name, please, on the submissions to make it much easier for the young person, as that is what the name of the account will be under. Data is also used to notify us when young person leaves care. So obviously any changes to their status is notified through that. And then that means that we can do our next part, which means that we can send a status change letter, usually sent to, or is sent to, the local authority or trust main contact for onward distribution, so that either the young person, if they're old enough to take control of their account, or a parent, if they're still not old enough to do that, can actually take control of the account. Because obviously once a young person leaves care, we would not be administering that account anymore. So the ideal situation is for the young person, if they're over 16, or the person with parental responsibility, to take control. And just to say, copies of the status letters or any correspondence we send, it's probably worth you keeping them in your database, just in case a copy is required. We do find that that is often a regular question, which is fine. We can reproduce them, but if you've got them in your database, especially later on as young people, if they come back to you, then you've got that information available. Seminar 3, all about donations into savings accounts. So the Share Foundation accepts donations for all accounts which are open and active in our records. So we're the registered contact, we know where that account is, we can administer donations to it. Regular donations are collected now by direct debit. So we've changed from standing order. We're encouraging donors to do the direct debit where they're doing individual to a young person's account. So where there's a donation to an individual young person's account, but we'll go through that in the seminar and explain that. One-off payments by bank transfer. So again, we'll talk about the how someone can actually make a one-off payment. And the special arrangements for local authorities and health trusts to make single payments for multiple account contributions. And also just to mention that we do send to local authorities and health trusts quarterly updates on the account values called the valuation report. So anyone who is a main contact may be familiar with that report, and that explains what values there are for a young person's account. Only for those, once again, must stress that, the ones where the Share Foundation are managing that account, because obviously we'll have the account details, we'll receive the valuations because we're the registered contact. Any other accounts, we either won't know where they are if there's a responsible adult and you've advised us that, you know, then that should be going, I guess, to the whoever the registered contact is. So seminar 4 is all about helping young people connect with their accounts. So we'll be talking about supporting a looked after child age 16 plus to locate their junior ISA or child trust fund in preparation for when they can access their money at 18. And that's quite important, because if they know about it, take control, understand it, and they're getting financial education as well, hopefully, then, you know, by the time they get to take their money or access their money, they've got a better understanding of what they can do with it. The Share Foundation have established resources to ensure an effective process through both an automated system and a hands-on approach. So you may all be familiar already with some of the links, the mygisa.sharefund.org, myctf.sharefund.org, and the findctf.sharefund.org. And all of those links are there for a reason. And there's an automated process, which is very clever, but there's also a very much of a hands-on approach to ensure that we can do our very utmost to ensure that all the young people do actually locate their account and get the information they require. We can provide the local authority and health trust with a list of looked after children who have completed the process to start locating their account. So we have got a report that we can produce that says that these young people have started that process or not. And that might be helpful for a local authority or health trust who are working with young people to make sure that they're doing that. So that's available. What we can't offer is a list that says they've definitely taken control of their account and claimed it. We can with the junior ISAs, our junior ISA account providers. We've only got 2 and they're very good at giving us quarterly valuations, and then that all is reflected on the valuation report, and if someone has claimed the account, it will be a 0 on there because we can't have any more valuations given to us if we're not the registered contact anymore, but it will remain on the valuation report, so you'll know that that has changed to potentially a young person claiming their account. But unfortunately with the child trust funds, there are so many account providers that they don't advise us when a young person has taken control of their account, so that information isn't readily available for us. In addition, on this seminar, the Share Foundation are actually working with HMRC and account providers with regard to the Child Trust Fund Recovery Campaign nationwide. So we've been doing this since the end of 2019. We introduced a link called findctf.sharefound.org, which allows a young person to use the Share Foundation support to find their account. So yes, we probably do need to have the input from HMRC, but we've also got access to the Tracing Group database. So the Tracing Group is an organisation we work with that help locate people or information for people. So we're working with them and they've successfully helped us to actually locate accounts for young people who have no idea where it is. Because even young people in care, so many of them don't even know where their account is. So we're looking at nationwide at the recovery campaign. There's well over £1 billion that has not yet been claimed in Child Trust Fund money that could have been claimed by now for young people that had already turned 18, and that figure is growing. So there's been a lot of publicity about this, and we're trying to help all young people find their Child Trust Fund and claim it. So seminar 5, all about the free financial education. You may or may not have heard of the Stepladder, Stepladder Plus or Stepladder of Achievement. It's a programme available to all 15 to 17-year-olds who have been in care for over 12 months. It's an incentivised learning programme with rewards paid into the savings accounts for each step passed. The rewards are from £150 to £400 per step. So the maximum amount a young person could have is 1,500. If they did all 6 steps, they could earn 1,500 before they're 18, because we cannot pay money into them, their accounts after they're 18. The 6 incremental steps of learning about financial education. So it's a benefit to these young people, not only because of the incentivised situation and they could earn money towards it, but more importantly, the financial education it will provide them for the future, for when they're out there on their own. And it's designed to help young people not fall into the NEET category. Seminar 6 provides quarterly updates to local authorities and health trusts on all accounts. So it's all about actually the valuation report. So quarterly reports are provided to all local authorities or health trusts on every account we have opened or had responsibility for. We cannot add names to the report. So we do sometimes have local authorities ask us, can we possibly have a name on the valuation report? But I'm afraid we can't. We have asked the powers that be, but that's a no. Obviously, we're all about helping not to identify the young people in documentation that's being given. So that would remain really with the TSF reference and the local authority numbers. The report highlights young people who may not have claimed their account. And that's quite important, and especially as we have identified a lot of young people who are well in their 20s, who were part of the junior ISA scheme, even those maybe with the child trust funds, but certainly the sort of older ones who had the junior ISAs in the earlier days. There have been a lot of accounts that still haven't been claimed, and they will sit on that valuation report with a value until a young person has claimed it. So we are setting about to find and do whatever we can to help young people claim their account. And we have introduced something called a bilateral agreement, which you may or may not be familiar with, which is for us basically to have an agreement with a local authority or health trust, for us to have the last known details, contact details of a young person. We will then do the work for you in terms of there's no charge or anything, but we are keen to make sure the young person claims their account. So we will set about using that information you provide us with contacting a young person. And if all else fails, and we've done all we possibly can, then we will potentially use the tracing group to help us as well, so that we can obtain that, we'll get that information to the young person about a potential account that they would have not have claimed yet. So you know, we're using that data, sharing of that data, which is through the bilateral agreement, because they're over 18, obviously. We, as I mentioned before, can provide details of who have accessed our account finding service, so we can do that in a report to you if you require that. That's just something that we do on request rather than actually on a quarterly or monthly basis. And we can provide support for young people to access their account where they have no bank account or ID and are struggling to claim their funds. So we talk about in that seminar how we, if we as the Share Foundation didn't have a chance to set up an account because the young person turned 18 before an account had been set up for the Junior ISA scheme, then we working with the local authority whereby we could pay that cheque to a young person. Obviously what we would normally do is pay them to the young person. However, if the young person hasn't got the ID to open up a bank account, so i.e. they're not going to be able to cash that cheque, we could pay that money to the local authority. They in turn would pay that young person, but we would need to have a form done properly. So we talk all about what the process is. And obviously we would need to know that the young person has received their money within a month of us paying the local authority. But all of that is explained as well in Seminar 6. Seminar 7, assisting account holders age 18. So we assist young looked after children age 18 plus to locate their Junior ISA or Child Trust Fund and claim their funds. So obviously that's sort of mentioned in another seminar as well, but also in this one, because by the time they're 18, we hope they may have already found their account at 16, but so many of them haven't, and going back to the Junior ISAs, definitely not. So we set about in that seminar explaining what we have in place to do that. Also working with local authorities, health trusts or account providers where a bank account or ID documents may not be available. We raise awareness of the care leaver covenant in that seminar to provide care leavers with access to support and information to enable them to live independently. That's quite important, that care leaver covenant, especially for people within local authorities and health trusts that are supporting young people who are about to leave care. And working with local authority and health trusts where a young person has left the care system but has not yet claimed their account. So again, a lot of information there about that bilateral agreement. So that's all the seminars. Hopefully I've given you a little bit of an insight into, and they're all available to book on there. If they're booked, fully booked, let us know, we can run more, so it's no problem. So do, you know, if you want to attend something and you see that it's full, then just contact us and we'll set about arranging some more dates. And really, I feel like I've done lots of talking, which a lot of people would say isn't unusual for me. But now I'd like to have the opportunity for you to ask some questions and to make sure that you'll get everything out of this really that you need and from this seminar. So stop sharing the screen and please, you know, if anyone's got any questions at all, please do put those forward.
So you said about the nationwide campaign. So how does that work, the nationwide campaign?
Okay, Meenakshi. So what we've done here, Meenakshi, is we've opened up this link called, well, the link is findctf.sharefound.org. And that link allows a young person to actually start the process of finding a child trust fund. So this is only for child trust funds. This findctf.sharefound.org link is used for young people who have not been in care, so they don't know where their account is, their parents don't know where their account is, or for young people who are in care, but where the local authority have told us there's a responsible adult. So where the Share Foundation have no idea where their account is because we're not the registered contact. So this link basically is a slightly simple version, really, of what the HMRC's Gateway account offers. So their Gateway, the HMRC, obviously you go to the Gateway account to actually start the process of locating your account. But this is another way of doing that. And what they will do is they'll fill out an online form. The form will then be able to be, it will need to be printed and signed because it works on a subject access request form. So, but if they haven't got access to a printer, that's not a problem. We can print it and send the form to them. So there's never going to be a hurdle there. We will then check our looked after children database, see if we can find anything there. If not, we'll go to the tracing group database and see if we can find anything there. If we do, we'll be giving them a response very quickly by email, because we found it quickly through that tracing group, because a lot of the big account providers signed up to that tracing group. So you'll find the One Families and the Foresters and the NatWests, which are the big child trust fund account providers. If both of those options don't work, then when we get the signed subject access request form, we'll send that to HMRC. They then do their investigation and they will respond back to the Share Foundation and to the young person to advise where that account had been opened. And then we, as the Share Foundation, when we get that information, we email the young person to say, okay, the account provider is this is their contact details, this is what you need to do. And we sort of walk them through that process. And I guess by them doing it through there, they can keep in touch with us. They can ask, you know, how's it going? Have we got a response yet? Whatever. We are reliant upon the HMRC, but we are always going to be reliant upon them with the child trust funds when no one knows where the child trust fund account is, because they are the only organisation that will know where it was opened at the time the young person was born. So that works really well, and we have helped over 30,000 young people find their account since the beginning of 2020.
Okay, it's a very long process, isn't it?
The process of finding the account is not too bad, depending on, I mean, as I said, if we match it very quickly to the tracing group, or, you know, via the tracing group data, it's pretty instant. They could have done their application online and we could have found it and given them the response that day if we're running it that day. So it's pretty much, or the next day, you know, so it's pretty much within the week they'll find it. If it has to go to HMRC, then yes, it could be a 6-week waiting time, because obviously HMRC are up against it. They're helping all young people trying to locate their account, you know, using the Gateway account system as well as the subject access request system. But we know we're really lucky to have a good relationship with them, and they're helping us do this. We're helping, the account providers are helping us. We're getting a lot of support from the account providers as well. We've got some good relationships with the account providers. They're very aware of what we do for looked after children, and, you know, hopefully we help a lot of young people, especially the looked after children, to find their accounts. Where with the registered contacts, it's much easier. A young person will fill out their form. So if it was a junior ISA, they do the myJISA.sharefound.org. It's an online form. We don't need a printed form. That information comes to us. We match it, or try to match it against our database. If we're successful in matching it, the young person will get a letter, and it's a letter because it will have an account number, because we'll know where the account is and we'll have the account number. So they'll get the letter to the address that they gave us, and then they just contact the account provider to take control. So the system where we've been the registered contact is much quicker, because obviously we generally will be having the account information. But for those lost child trust funds, then we have a good system in place, as I say, you know, successfully proved that young people can find their account. And that's what we're keen to do, Meenakshi. We're really keen to make sure all young people looked after children, obviously, with the Junior ISA and their child trust funds, and nationwide recovery with the child trust fund scheme.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Sue.
No problem at all. Has anyone else got any particular questions about the Share Foundation or about anything that they want to mention here? Have any of you been to any of the other seminars?
No, but I'm booked on to some others.
Sorry, you haven't?
I haven't, but I have got some more booked.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, lovely, Claire. That's great. Hopefully they'll be useful for you.
I too have booked for some more seminars, you know, but this is the first seminar I'm attending today.
Oh, okay. Well, this gives you a good sort of understanding, and maybe it helps you then think, well, what other seminars would be useful for me? So if you're wanting to do donations and you understand that, if you're working with young people that are claiming their accounts, then maybe that one's for you. So it's really understanding what you need, I guess, to help you do what you do, and also give you a better understanding of what we do and how we can help the young people. You know, we have no problems at all where young people ring us and email us or whatever if they've got questions themselves. That's no problem whatsoever. So please do pass our information to them. I don't know whether any of you main contacts at the local authority
or for us. I'm a contact for people finding.
Yeah, so Claire, then you'll be familiar with a lot of what we've sort of mentioned today anyway. And some of you may be data people that are sending in the data on a regular basis. So what I'll do, I will remain here anyway. So if anyone's got any more questions, then I will stay here until the last person leaves. And if not, if everyone's happy, then, you know, please, if you do want to leave, then I understand. But I'm here for you, and if even after this, if you've got any queries, then just send us a message. So info@sharefound.org is our email address, but otherwise just use me, sue.parsons@sharefound.org. And thank you for attending today.
So one more question. So, you know, you said you're going to put the recording. Where will you put the recording?
So we'll go up on YouTube, and when we get the link, we will send that out if you want it. So if you just pop something in the chat, if you want to receive either the PDF of these slides today, or if you want to receive any recording, then we can put that in, we can email that to you.
All right. Okay, brilliant.
All right, Meenakshi, thank you.
So we'll do. Thanks.